In this video, I'm going to show you how to download and install the road generator plugin from Fab to Unreal Engine. But before, let's talk really quick about the features of this plugin. First of all, this plugin uses landscape splines, and landscape splines are the default method in Unreal Engine to make roads. And they have some really nice features like their flexibility in controlling the curvature of the roads, and over normal splines they also have a feature which is that they allow branching. So here in this picture you can see that we have 3 roads and all 3 of them have different width. So this one is very narrow, this one is very wide, and this one is somewhere in the middle. And the landscape splines does a really good job in the branching between all 3 of them. Now another good thing about using landscape splines is that they make the roads directly on the landscape, and this will allow you to use landscape tessellation, and landscape tessellation allow you to use this placement map to add a lot of details to the road, and with Nanite it does it in a really efficient way, so it only adds the details to the area around you without costing too much in performance. Now you can do this also with static meshes, but with the static meshes you will need a lot of triangles to get so much details out of the displacement map, and this will cost you a lot in performance. So doing it on the landscape directly with the landscape splines will allow you to add a lot of details without cost too much in performance. And over with the default landscape splines offer, this plugin then take the landscape splines to PCG, and from there we can add the road markings like the line in the middle and the crosswalk, and then we make the spline on the side of the roads, which we can see right here. And this spline on the sides of the road is a fully continuous loop, and even in the transition between one road to another there is no breaks in this spline. It's a fully continuous loop, and this will allow us to make anything on the side of the road. So here we have a sidewalk, and this sidewalk is made from a dynamic mesh, and it was inspired by real-life options like this type of sidewalk, and it is made from the dynamic mesh and with a realistic material. This one is from Quixel. And we have also another option which is also a dynamic mesh as the base, and on the top of it we have sidewalk tiles, and this is also inspired by other real-life options. So some sidewalks have tiles, and so this is what we have here, and those tiles are actually aligned with the sidewalk and they don't overlap with each other. And you have another option which is to remove the tiles and just use material. And as this is PCG, you can easily add more to it. For example, here from the side spline you can always use a spline sampler and add more things on the side of the road like the streetlights, and we also sample the landscape splines to add decals on the roads. And all of the buildings that you see in the gallery are generated using my other tool, which is building generator. But this is basically the tool. Now let's take a look at how to install it. Okay, now we have a new project. Let's go to Fab. I'm going to search for road generator, and in here click view and launcher, and in here click on install plugin, and we only have one version, so it's 5.6, and then press install. Okay, we're gonna wait for it to download. Okay, now it is installed. Now we go to the project and we go to plugins, and we will find it right here. If you didn't find it, you need to restart your project, but for me it did appear, so just enable it and press restart now. Okay, now the plugin is enabled, and if we search for PCG, we can see that it also enables the required plugins by itself, which is PCG and PCGEometryScriptInterop. And PCGEometryScript. So these three plugins need to be enabled. Okay, now we can find the plugin in the engine folder in plugins, and we can search for road tool. Here we have C++ classes, and here we have the content. And in here we can open the test level. You will notice that it is very laggy, and that is because we have a light at each street light pole. So you can do two things to fix this. You can either disable the street lights if you don't want them, or in 5.6 we do have MegaLights, which allow us to add a lot of lights without costing too much performance. So now if we go to project settings and we search for MegaLights and enable it, now the project is much better. And in the night you will see that we do have lights. Okay, now I want to show you how you can start working on the landscape splines, but because this sidewalk is a dynamic mesh, it's going to be very heavy to generate it every time we make a change. So if we go to the PCG folder and open the PCG graph and disable this, which is the node that generates the dynamic mesh for the sidewalk, we can also disable this. This one is not on, but it is for the sidewalk with tiles. We don't need both of them for now. There's also another thing that you need to do, which is go to the get landscape data and scroll down and disable track actors only within bounds. And that's because this node will actually delete some of the points if this was enabled. I didn't have this issue while I was working on this project, but after I've downloaded it from Fab, I had this issue. But if we disable this, it will fix it. And I'll make sure that this is disabled by default in a future update for this plugin. But now we can start working on the landscape splines. If we go to the landscape mode and then go to the manage tab and click splines. And now if we click on any control point and if we hold control and left click anywhere, it will branch from that point. And you can see it's generated the entire thing. Also, if you want to link this point with a point on this road, let's make a point right here. Make a straight. And you can link these two together if you hold control and click on this. And now we have made a triangle. And if we hold control, we make the full thing. Let's make it bigger. And you can see you can make any design like this. And now we can go back to the graph and let's enable this to see it with the sidewalk. And now the sidewalk is generated. Also, if you get the decals going into the dynamic mesh, I do have a post-process function for it. If you go to the node where we make the dynamic mesh, here we have the post-process function. Sometimes it does not load directly, so just disable it and enable it. And now the decals are not on the dynamic mesh. Okay, now we also are not using any assets right now. It's all just solid colors. So what we want to do is we want to go to Fab and get some realistic assets and try to use them with the plugin. So first we need asphalt. And make sure to download at least high quality if you want to use displacement, because the medium quality doesn't come with displacement map. And I'm going to use two materials. Let's see this one. Okay, now we've downloaded two asphalt materials. Let's also get a concrete material. I think this one is good for the sidewalk. And we also want decals, so let's find decals for road. We need a yellow line, and a white line, okay. Now I'm gonna start working on the landscape material. Go to landscape and open the landscape material, and this is where the road material is. Okay, so now we want to use MF adjustment, and let's go back to Fab. Let's get the textures. Okay, let's connect everything. And for the displacement, we can connect it like this. And we also want to make two materials, so we need to duplicate this. And now let's go to the second asphalt material, which is this one, and let's replace those with this material. Okay, now we also forgot to add the UV. So if we get QMF tiling and we connect a parameter to it, let's call it tiling scale, and let's make the default one, and let's add a named reroute. Let's call it UV. And now here we can get this. Okay, now we want to blend them together. We're going to use blend material attributes. Right here, we're going to use texture sample, and we want to use with it tiling noise. I think this one. And for the UV, we want to use a different tiling. So let's make a new parameter and call it a noise scale. And let's make it a bit bigger, so 0.5. And now we connect this right here. And now we should have a road material. Okay, and we also forgot to connect here. I usually connect a constant of 0 to this input. Now let's try it. Okay, you can see that the displacement is too much. Let's reduce it. Okay, still too much. Let's go 0.2, maybe 0.01. And now we have the road with displacement. I will also reduce the noise tiling more. Okay, I think this is good. Now we cannot see the tiling from the material, and we have a blend of two materials. And if you want, you can make an adjustment to the material and try to blend the colors of the two materials more. Okay, now we also want to use the material of the concrete on the sidewalk. Okay, so let's go to the PCG, go to PCG component, and to the parameters. And we're going to see the parameter for the material right here. And let's use this material. Okay, now I think the material is too small, so let's make these two 1. And we can also control the tiling from the material itself. Also, I don't think this is the material I've downloaded. I think maybe this one. Yeah, let's try this. And let's also make that tiling smaller so the material is bigger. Okay, we also forgot to download a curve. So let's do that. And we want a 3D mesh. And let's download this one. Also, let's change the decals. So to add decals, we will need to go to the decal. Let's open all of them. And from here, let's add the decals, and those will be added on the road. Let's go to the graph. And right now we have the decals, which are right here, disabled, because we did not have any assets in the decals, but now we can enable it. Now we have the decals on the road, and we need to change the decals for the yellow and white line in the same way. And now we have decals for the white line and for the yellow line. Also for the decals, there is a way, I think, to make the yellow line under. So let's try doing that. If we make this 1, and now it worked. Now let's change the curve. And we do have grammar for the curve. So if you want to make the curve from 2 colors, and to do that, we need to change the grammar. And instead of only 1 module, we need to do 2. And if we want to make it white and yellow, we need to make the first module, for example, curve white, and the second curve yellow. And with the asterisk outside, it will repeat both of them. So now we have white and yellow, and now here, let's make it curve white. Let's duplicate this element, so we make one for the yellow. And now just add this right here. Okay, let's also try the sidewalk with tiles. Let's enable it. We also need to make the base material smaller, which we can do from the material instance. And you can also change the dimension of the tile, so you can use any tile you need. We can also make the width of the sidewalk higher, so let's try make it 600. And now we have a much bigger sidewalk. The tiling look really clean. And we have a smooth transition at the corners. Now we also have another version of this entire thing. So I've made this plugin using the native PCG, and I also made it using the PCGEx plugin. Now here, if we go right here, you can see that right now we are using the native PCG. So this is not using any PCGEx nodes. Everything in here is made with PCG. Also, there is some nodes that are made with C++ to make this possible. But everything work with the native PCG. The PCGEx version rely completely on PCGEx nodes. Now there are some missing nodes in here. That's because I don't have the PCGEx plugin enabled. So let's try to enable it and see how it works. Now to enable the PCGEx plugin, you can go to Fab and search for PCGEx. And right here, you need to do the same method we used to download the road generator plugin. So you go to the launcher and install it. I already have it installed. So after you install it, you go to plugins and search for PCGEx and enable it. And let's restart. Okay, now that we restarted, let's open the level and let's open road generator PCGEx. And now you can see all of the nodes from PCGEx are added. And let's try to use it now instead of this. I think if we pause region, the first one, and hide it, now we add the PCGEx. Now this is the PCGEx version, and you can see that it looks the same. We can toggle on and off and see the difference. The first one is still on pause region, and it is on the sidewalk with tiles option. So let's switch it back. Now, if you want to compare the performance of the two, the first one generated in 16 seconds, the second one generated in about 4 seconds. So the PCGEx version performed better, especially in generating the dynamic mesh. And let's try to use the sidewalk with tiles from the PCGEx. And now this is the PCGEx version. I think it does perform better. So this is the total time is 4 seconds. For the PCG version, it was 15 or 16 seconds. But this is it for this video. If you guys have any question, let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching.